I thought I knew my husband very well, including his habits, past life, and even his secrets. But there is one weird habit I didn't know about him, and that is his obsession with eating in the dark. First time my husband turned the light off before eating his dinner, I didn't think much about it. I brushed it off. Maybe he just didn't like being watched. But gradually, I noticed how weird it really was. Every night after serving dinner, he would gently stand up, walk to the switch, and turn off the lights before eating. He would switch them back on after eating. The annoying part is how he'd act like nothing happened. One day, as he ate in the dark, I heard noises that made my skin crawl. Spoons scraping too hard against the plate. Even heard whispers that didn't sound like my husband's. This habit went on and on until one night I decided to confront my husband. I finally asked the one question that has been bothering me. I said, "Sweetheart, why do you like eating in the dark?" He spoke from the gloom. "Let's not talk about it. Not today, not tomorrow, never. Just leave the lights on." But eating in the dark is... Before I could finish my sentence, he cut me off. He asked me, "Are we pregnant?" I'm shocked. How did he know? I just found out a few hours ago that I was pregnant. I mean, I haven't even told a soul about it. Again, that's strange. But the thought of being a mother, a first-time mom, softened me. I looked at my tummy, touched it, and smiled. At that moment, I forgot about the whole eating in the dark question. That night, all we did was talk and plan about our unborn baby's future. What would be his name? Who would he look like? And so on. Moving on, my husband's habit of eating in the dark didn't stop. I got fed up, couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to do something about it. One night, while he was eating in the dark, in my mind I'm like, if I turn this light on, maybe I would finally know the truth. As I stood there with my heart pounding, my hand was trembling. As I gradually reached for the switch, then a shaky but heavy voice came. "Don't you dare turn the lights on. Don't try it." But my mind was already made up. I've had enough. So I flipped the switch on. What I saw made my blood run cold, and it was really shocked when the lights turned on. My husband, whom I believed warned me not to turn the lights on, was nowhere to be found at the dining table. Where did he go? He was just here a minute ago and he even spoke to me. The whole dining area was quiet. But when I looked at the table, the food I served was gone. Then I saw this long, slimy thing crawling like an earthworm. I screamed, but my scream was caught in my throat. No sound was coming out, no matter how hard I screamed. I staggered backward, and then I heard footsteps coming from the kitchen. I panicked. A voice, that of my husband, came. "Honey, are you alright? You look scared." As he tried to hug me, I shouted, "Get away from me. You are scaring me. I don't understand you anymore." He looked at me in confusion and asked, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Stop pretending." With my eyes full of tears, I continued, "You were here eating while the lights were off. But when I turned the lights on, you were gone. The only thing on the table was this." As I pointed at the table, I realized that the creature was gone. The table looked spotless. My husband walked to me, pulled me into his arms and said, "Honey, there is nothing here." I finished eating and I took the plate to the kitchen. The food was just too delicious that I rushed it. "So stop imagining things. Let's go to bed. It's bedtime." I told him to go ahead, that I wanted to watch a TV program. He kissed me goodnight and went to bed. As I fixed my eyes on the TV screen, my mind was far away. I was just bodily present. So many questions ran through my mind. What do I do? Is my husband real? The thought of what people will say if I leave the marriage that is not even up to a year overwhelmed me. And again I thought, maybe I was overreacting. Was I seeing things? I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning before I went to work, I started to confide in my husband's longtime friend, who also happened to be our neighbor. I told him everything that happened last night. His face changed immediately. "That's strange," he said. "I've known your husband for long. I can't believe this. You know what? I would like to witness this myself." Then he came closer and whispered, "Tonight, listen. When he eats, text me. I'll come over. If what you say is true, you must involve your family. Something has to be done. Urgently." I nodded in relief. But what I didn't know was that he was already part of something darker with my husband. In the evening of that day, I came home early, not feeling well. From inside, I heard my husband rush back. Before he reached to our door, our neighbor called him. So he stopped where our neighbor walked to him. They didn't know I was home. I stood by the door. My heart almost jumped out of my mouth as I eavesdropped on them. Our neighbor said with a low voice, "I don't trust your wife. I told you she's going to ruin things for us. Look at what she did last night." My husband was shocked and asked him how he knew. The neighbor leaned closer. His words as cold as ice. He said, "Do the needful before it's too late." My husband's voice was heavy and said, "She's carrying my child." Our neighbor smiled and said, "This is even better. What are you waiting for?" Tears blurred my vision. I couldn't listen anymore. "Oh my God," I screamed. My husband and his friend turned slowly. their eyes looked with mine. Right there, I knew my end has come. After my husband and our neighbor caught me eavesdropping on them, I quickly locked the door, fell to the ground and started shivering in fear. Then I heard our neighbor say to my husband, "This is the right time." I heard their footsteps coming closer to the door, so I used my body against the door. Then they started banging on the door. My heart was pounding because I knew that if by any chance they opened that door, I'm doomed. Then my husband spoke, "Honey, please open the door." I didn't respond. After some minutes, I heard footsteps walking away, and when I peeped through the window, it was our neighbor. He went back to his house. My husband, on the other hand, stood by the door, his eyes filled with tears. He looked up and saw me, then he said, "Please, honey, open the door. I will tell you everything. Why I eat in the dark and what I and my friend were talking about." I told him, "No, I don't trust you." He said, "Honey, believe me, I love you so much. You're carrying my child, so I can't even hurt you." I still couldn't bring myself to open the door for him. After what I heard, I brought out my phone to call someone for help. On the second thought, I decided to let him in and hear him out. As he walked through the door, he gave me a hug and told me to escort him to the dining. When we got to the dining, we sat down. Then he began. "Let me tell you everything. How he started. He started 10 years ago." Then he paused, stared at the opposite chair. I turned to see what he was staring at. Then I saw something like a dark figure. Before I could blink my eyes, it disappeared. I looked at my husband. He was still staring. I panicked. At this point, I didn't know what to do. Should I run? I was just confused. While my husband was still staring at the chair, and after what I saw, I quickly sent a quick message to my parents, informing them of the situation at hand. It wasn't up to an hour, I heard a knock on the door. My husband suddenly moved. I staggered back, rushed and opened the door. Behind the door stood my parents and a man of God. As I saw my parents, I was relieved and emotional. I hugged them and ushered them in. My dad told me that he informed my husband's father of the situation and that he was on his way to our house too. When we got to the dining room, my husband, whom I left there, was nowhere to be found. I searched everywhere in the house and he wasn't there. I stood in the middle of the room, confused. Where did he go? There is only one exit in this house and I didn't see him leave through that exit. As I stood there, lost in thoughts, my phone rang. It was my husband's father. He called to tell me that he was on his way to the house. Then he went further to say, "Your father already told me what's happening. Don't worry, your marriage is safe and nothing will happen to you and my unborn grandchild." How did he know about my pregnancy? Did my husband tell him? I doubt. When my husband's father arrived, he asked me to go get him food. I brought the food. He placed it at the exact spot where my husband usually have his dinner. Then he began chanting incantations, language that only him could understand. Before we knew it, the kitchen door swung open. Right there in the middle of the kitchen stood my husband. The same kitchen I went to get the food from, and I didn't see anyone. Even when I was looking for my husband, I searched every nook and cranny of that kitchen and he wasn't there. While I was still thinking, I heard my father-in-law commanding my husband to come and eat the food. When I looked at my husband, he was crying. He said, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I never wanted to be part of this. You dragged me into it. This has ruined my life. I'm tired. Please let me be." My father-in-law insisted that he eats the food, stating that as the only male child, he must carry on the family legacy. That night, my husband cried like a baby. He looked at me and said, "Honey, I will tell you everything." His father stood up. With a thunderous voice, he spoke. "You will do no such thing." I looked at my parents. They both looked shocked and confused. My mom told my dad that she can no longer let me remain in this marriage, that I must live with them. But my dad wanted to get to the end of everything. My father-in-law continued chanting, insisting that my husband eat from that food. But my husband refused, begged his father to release him from the bondage so he can live his life freely the way he wants. The father said no, that he was going to explain everything to me and I will understand. My husband turned to me and said, "Honey, like I said, I will tell you everything. The secrets. If anything happens to me after this confession, tell my unborn baby that I loved him or her so much." I said to my husband, "Honey, go ahead and tell us why you refuse to eat unless the lights are off. It doesn't have to be a secret anymore." My husband nodded slowly. "All right, I will." He took a deep breath and tried to speak, and no sound came out. His lips moved, sweat beading on his forehead. We could clearly see that he was struggling, panic rising in my chest. "Honey, are you okay?" I asked him. He couldn't answer. His lips trembled, yet no words came out. Then his father let out a loud mocking laugh. "I told you," he said coldly. "This is just the beginning. A stubborn fly that follows a corpse will surely end up in the grave." At this point, the man of God my parents had invited suddenly spoke. "Enough." His voice calm but commanding as he rose to his feet. My father-in-law looked at him and smiled. Then he spoke. "You little boy, sit down. Don't speak when I'm speaking. Fear gripped me, but the pastor stepped forward, his presence filling the room. I may look small, he said, but greater is he who is in me than he who is in the world. Then he turned to my husband. In the name of the Most High God, I declare your freedom. Every curse is broken. Be free. Suddenly, a strong breeze swept through the room. The curtains flew widely as the smell of rain filled the air. A rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. My father-in-law staggered backward, clutching his head in pain, and then collapsed onto the couch. And my husband's voice came out at last, heavy with emotion. I will confess, he said, I eat in the dark because the food never stays the same. It always turns into worms, and I never eat alone. There's always another presence at the table. For 10 years, I haven't tasted anything called food. Everyone's mouth opened. The pastor prayed for him, for me, the entire house. When he finished, his face softened with a smile. Now you are free, he said gently. Go and live in peace. My father-in-law was still trembling when we helped him home. His body was already weak. The next day, news reached us that he had fallen seriously ill. We rushed to the bedside. Daddy, my husband said, kneeling by him, let go of these practices. Denounce them and you will find peace. With his last breath, my father-in-law whispered, never, I will never abandon the tradition. I would rather go to my grave holding on to it. And just before we left, he passed away. Despite everything, we mourned him deeply. For the first time in months since I got married, I cooked, served dinner, and we ate together with the lights on. While we were eating, I decided to tease my husband. I said, honey, should I turn off the lights? He laughed, pulling me close and said, don't try it. I no longer belong to the darkness. I am a child of light now. We both smiled. My heart felt free at last. Months later, our joy doubled. I gave birth to a boy and a girl, twins. Yeah. We gave them names that symbolize strength, faith, and triumph. And that was the end. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.